Hey guys, before we start the podcast formally, there have been some news during the last month that Booster is discontinuing the Omakase subscription box, and we just wanted to dedicate this episode to the awesome team at Booster and wish them luck in their future endeavors, and hopefully that Omakase will return in some sort of way, form. I personally have never been a subscriber, but Bish has been one of those. What do you have to say about this?
So I've been a subscriber of Omakase even since before they started. I was lucky enough to receive the Alpha box, which was the Miku box, and obviously since then I've been just getting the rest of the boxes because, it was pretty awesome experience to get. Like, I don't know, for me it was unique because no one else was doing it at the time, and all the stuff was fully licensed. It's a shame to see it go, to be honest.
What do you think they could have done to keep the service afloat?
I think they should have just split it into anime streaming and anime merch, potentially. Putting them both together, it was just too many things that people didn't want. And obviously they're investing in other things. They were investing in the music side of things, the comics side of things, and people really just ignored those things. So I think dropping those or potentially putting them into a different service would have made more sense to me personally.
Well, lessons to be learned. Again, Booster, this episode is for you, and good luck. Hey guys, thank you for joining us for another episode of Get a Life Podcast Kunai. I'm Tyson Matsuki. Bish is ill, so he couldn't be with us today, but we got the regular crowd of people here.
Sad boys.
Sad face, yes.
Yeah.
So we got Kevin.
Hey guys.
And we got Joe.
Hi.
Wow, what an enthusiastic hi.
The intentional depressing hi.
Bish isn't talking right now, but he's still listening to this chat, so he's watching us from above,
He's giving us moral support.
Yeah.
I'd introduce him, but he's ill, so he's not be able to talk. Anyway, what we're going to do today is that we're going to be covering Shirobako. And as always, before we start with the discussion, we got a little disclaimer for you.
Alright, for those of you new to the Get Alive Podcast Kunai bandwagon, Get Alive Podcast Kunai is a monthly anime discussion podcast under the Get Alive Podcast group. Due to the nature of the discussion, we're going to have to spoil a bunch of stuff because it's kind of hard to avoid spoilers during discussions. And for shows that are based off an existing piece of work, whether it's manga, light novel, or any other form of media, we are uncovering the source material for those types of media. We can be found on Stitcher, iTunes, and now Google Play.
We're live in Google Play?
Yep.
Ooh, awesome.
If you'd like to recommend the show to us to watch and make an episode for it on Kunai, then send your suggestion on Twitter at Get a Life Podcast Kunai or at GALP Kunai or by email at galp.p@gmail.com. We only ask that you guys shows that have at most 30 episodes.
That's galp.pea@gmail.com. That's the email for Bish's secretary. If you have any feedback that you want to send us, you can contact that email. Anyway, Shirobako, or White Box, referencing the master tapes that were given to the production staff, is a comedy drama show based on an original concept by the production team at Warner Brothers Japan. This two-course show, spanning 24 episodes, aired from fall 2014 to spring 2015, was produced by animation studio Progressive Animation Works and directed by Tsutomu Mitsushima. Shirobako begins with the 5 members of the Kaminoyama High School animation clubs all making a pledge to work hard on their very first amateur production and make it into a success. After showing it to an audience at a culture festival, that pledge turned into a huge dream: to move to Tokyo, get jobs in the anime industry, and one day join hands to create something amazing. Fast forward 2.5 years, and 2 of those members, Aoi Miyamori and Emma Yasuhara, have made their dreams into reality by landing jobs at a famous production company called Musashino Animation, which from here onwards we'll just call it Musani. Everything seems perfect at first. However, as the girls slowly discover, the animation industry is a bit tougher than they had imagined. Who said making your dream come true was easy? Well, dreams are hard. So let's start off with the first impressions. Kevin, you want to start?
Sure. Okay. So I'll be honest. I literally did not hear of Shirobako until you brought it up. I had no idea it was a yeah. No,
really?
I never heard of it.
It was kind of popular in my corner of any Twitter. I don't know about yours.
I don't know if I was into anime back then because I thought
It was last year. It was last year, dude.
No, last year was 2015. It aired in 2014, so it was still.
Oh yeah. You're right. I'm sorry.
Was still
I derp.
I was still a newbie back then, right? So I didn't really hear about it until now. And right off the bat, just from the description, right? Because it's an anime about making anime, right? It's like it's so meta, right? And when I watched the first episode, what I was expecting for the rest of the season was honestly K-On! Because the intro with the club and everything meets Bakuman. And Bakuman's a manga about making manga, right? So I was expecting some sort of slice of life / romancy anime about making anime. Mm-hmm. And when I watched the first episode, my first thought was, you know what? All of these characters, especially Aoi, they're all so innocent and oblivious, right? They're all so optimistic, and it's like they don't know, they've never been on any Twitter, right? So their dreams aren't crushed yet, right? So I'm like, they're still so pure, but immediately in the first episode, you already have the tension, with the deadlines having to be met, and there's all the stress and stuff, right? So I changed my mind pretty quickly. So don't let the first few minutes fool you. This is a slice of life anime. It's all about friendships and stuff, but it tackles the more serious aspects of producing anime as well, and that comes with all the stress, all the emotions and stuff. So it's not what you expect at first. Don't take this anime at face value. And to be honest, this is not an anime I'd recommend to a newbie, to be honest. I think that it's just the fact that there's such a large cast that it's really easy to get lost, right? Like in the first episode, they throw a bunch of characters and a bunch of names at you, and you're like, oh my god, what the hell is going on, right? So it's really easy to get lost. It's one of the few anime that I feel you have to take notes while watching, because otherwise you get lost in the sea of characters and all the technicalities are getting thrown at you. So newcomers to the anime fandom might get a bit intimidated, but for those who are more experienced, I think you'll feel right at home.
Well, if you do the kind of stuff that we do, then yes, you do need to take notes. Joe?
Well, unlike Kevin, I actually, I was actually aware of the show back when it was still airing. And so, I heard we were gonna watch the show for the podcast. And I was really interested because, it's something I've been planning to watch for a while. And then, right off the bat, I personally, I know Kevin said, he does, it goes right off the bat. He said that it kind of takes its time to show you how it goes, but for after the first few minutes, the show just changes. It just hits you like a book. It goes from their time in junior college, I think it was.
Junior high.
Junior high, or was it junior college?
Some of them were on the last year of high school, and some of them were on their second last year, I believe.
Sophomore, is that how it's called? The second year of high school?
I don't know, to be honest.
Well, anyway, wherever they were in, it was them working on this low budget animation, and then it immediately jumps to them as adults, where they're stressing out to try to create this anime before trying to create episodes of this anime before their air dates. I agree with Kevin when he says that you'd want to have experience with shows before you actually watch this show, because there are a lot of characters that aren't flat at all. From what I saw for the first few episodes, the characters were there wasn't a single character that felt bland to me. Each one had their own little personality, and it's you'd want to remember every single one of them. And with that said, you'd have to remember a lot of different Japanese names, which should be very difficult to somebody who's new to the show. But enough of that about that. And as far as the main content goes, I was very confused for the first few episodes. Like not in the sense that like I was like I didn't know what was going on, but it's like it was going really fast. It was fast paced because like I said, it goes right off the bat and like shows you like the stress and struggle of people working in the anime industry, where like everyone's trying to like do this, so you're trying to draw this art while there are other people trying to cut, and then it's crazy. Like it's just like a long ride from there. All right, so Tyson.
It is very fast-paced by design. It's not something that was put in there accidentally. It is fast-paced by design. So, first impressions of me, I actually managed to catch this show while it was airing. There was this particular Crunchyroll employee, Miles, I'm looking at you, that is very much a fanatic of the show. And it seemed like right up my alley. I mean, I'm usually interested in behind-the-scenes stuff. So, a meta anime, an anime about making anime, seemed like something that I would definitely enjoy. And my god, I did. Although some of the themes that this show touches upon weren't immediately clear to me. I mean, this is the anime that I was watching while I was working out at the treadmill here in my house. So I didn't pay that much attention. With this rewatch, there are certain themes that certainly made themselves more clear, probably because I was paying more attention. So there's the issue of optimism, working in the anime industry, and I do have to mention, for instance, this show is not meant to be a Bible, nor how things specifically run in the anime industry. It's not like the production team at Progressive Animation Works just saw one studio and then decided to model that after Shirobako. So it's really important to keep that in mind, because some of the techniques they may use to produce anime is not what they do on other anime studios. So I think that distinction should be very clear. But if anything, I felt like Shirobako has two layers, basically. Like the layer of the idealist, and in a way it could be the creator's message about how the anime industry can change, and the underpinning layer of how the anime industry actually works. And it is fast-paced, although I would argue that most of the names that you see on the show are forgettable, and people that you don't really need to remember the names, but you have to remember their roles.
Yeah.
What did they do to the production and whatnot. But we can touch upon that much later. So with that in mind, let's just tackle the story in there. I don't know if you guys agree with me on the appreciation of the story. I mean, it's a slice of life, but it also has an underpinning story, like the goal of these girls to make an anime together, this sort of blissful ignorance kind of type of story, I suppose. What do you guys have to add on that?
Like you said, it's a slice of life anime, and just like almost any other slice of life anime, it's not completely devoid of a plot. I mean, there's a starting point and an end point, all right? But how the characters get from point A to point B, it's not defined, it's not controlled, all right? It's, you know, it's an anime about the everyday life, the nitty gritty of working in an anime production studio, all right? So don't go into this anime expecting some sort of like Attack on Titan or Blast of Tempest level story. It's not that. Above all, it's not an anime that prioritizes story. It focuses mainly on giving the viewers a good idea of how the industry works. But like you said, Tyson, you can't really take it as a Bible that, you know, this is exactly how the the industry works because, you know, I saw it Shirobako, right? But at the same time, it's really focused on the technical details of anime production and also on the characters. There's a big cast of characters, and they all get their own moments. They're really realistic.
Joe?
There's like I'm strangely attracted to this story. Like it's really weird. Like, when you think about it, would you really want to watch a show about people working? It's like, let's just try to go with it here. It's like, would you watch a show where people just work?
No, but it's I don't. No, but I think that
Well,
it's
just let me finish. Let me finish.
okay.
And yet the story manages to make working in the anime industry like you said, it isn't like completely like 100% accurate when it comes to how like working conditions are. It's just the characters make it very interesting. The characters make it feel like the office is always full of life, and like it's like there have been a lot of moments in the story where I've just laughed, like even when it was getting very serious, because there would always be like a few people that would just like lay low or kind of just freak out in the funniest way, and that's where I see the charm in the show. Like it's like working in the industry with a twist. Like while it's always so busy and like it sends some messages, it also like manages to make it as interesting as a regular anime. So that it blends everything together. It just works well to me.
I completely agree with you, Joe. It's the characters really make this anime shine. And to kind of respond to your question, would I just watch an anime about people working? No, I wouldn't. But
yeah, exactly.
let's
my
remember
point
here that Shirobako isn't just a show about people working, right? Much like K-On! Isn't just about someone going to school. It's really an anime that does a really good job at presenting the characters and the dynamic between them, right? It's not just the characters on their own that make this show good. It's really the relationships that are built over the course of the anime that make it shine. You see the relationship between the characters as people and also as, employees. There's this hierarchical structure, right? And bear with me here, but I kind of feel that, in a way, it almost feels like a sitcom.
I agree.
Because there's so many characters and it's an office setting, right? So
The Office,
it's
the
not
animation.
a realistic portrayal of everyday life, but the way the characters are arranged and the way the roles they fill, it feels very much like a sitcom that I would watch on television.
Definitely. I agree with the sitcom interpretation, even from the most ridiculous kind of the director Kinoishi Seishi, I think that's his name. Pretty much overreacting to everything, and especially when someone mentions his failed project Jiggly Heaven. I mean, I had many a laugh when he overreacted to that.
God. Guys, can I say something?
What?
I found the best comparison for Jiggly Heaven.
What's that?
Jiggly Heaven is the Denki guy of Shirobako.
Or rather, the Denki guy of Galai Podcast Kunai, I suppose that you wanted to say. But yeah, it's like Bish goes into this crisis every time Denki guy is mentioned. But yeah, that was a serious train wreck of an episode, guys. That's why we didn't air it. Anyway, so
We should make an anime about kunai,
an anime about kunai.
An anime about filming kunai.
An anime about kunai would just involve 4 guys literally marathoning anime on their computers and then just sitting in front of a computer for 4 hours talking. It'd be quite boring, to be honest.
And me yelling at Kevin that he's the best girl sucks.
Exactly. I'm sorry, Kevin. You get the short end of the stick.
Yep. That.
He always gets the short end of the stick.
I mean, you're not too far off either, Tyson.
No, not at all. Okay, so...
Oh, wait. Sorry, before we move on. One of the first things I noticed when I watched, especially the first episode, was... and it's a recurring trend, is I was like, okay, what the fuck is up with this anime and bad driving? Because it's shown in the first episode, with the street race, and then it happens over and over and over. And I was like, what is up with this? And after a while, I started to think that, maybe this is some sort of inside joke amongst, people in the industry. Maybe, people working in the industry are just have a reputation for rushing to work and stuff. What do you guys think of this?
Yeah, and there's that one single rivalry within the company where there are 2 people racing to get a parking spot.
Yeah. But even for to go from place to place, to pick up cuts and stuff, they always do these crazy Need for Speed style drifts and shit, right? And you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
No,
real talk, I legitimately thought somebody was going to crash and die. I thought there was going to be a death in the show because of the reckless driving.
Honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised.
Well, there was a police chase in the very last episode.
Oh my god, no, that was priceless. You know when the manager she meets the person at the office, she comes out and there's a line of officers with the guns drawn. She died.
Stop right there. Yeah, it was quite a thing, but I think that more than anything depicts how fast-paced this is, and I think they're trying to get some thrills out of it. Although it could be again, this is not supposed to be by the book's description of how things work in the anime industry, but I think this shows the creators being conscious that they also are making something that is supposed to entertain the people. So things like that are definitely exhilarating, are definitely fun to look at. Although we can debate about whether they're done correctly or not. But it is something that you can't deny is that it was fun watching that.
Well, I certainly hope it isn't something that happens in real life in the industry, or else I think the employee death rate would be much, much higher than it actually is, you know?
Oh my god.
Instead of being overworked, they die by car crash.
Oh.
That sounds like so morbid right now.
The thing is, the anime does get morbid at some areas, though, right?
Yeah, like when it talks about like when it kind of symbolizes adulthood, like the times where it's like there are people out drinking to kind of like forget about their worries, or there'll be people kind of like trying to get money to eat.
Yeah, no,
like they're kind of mentioning that a lot. It's like if you don't do well in this job, you don't eat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that was the old guy talking to Emma. And it's mostly because the pay for animators is very, very low. It is disgustingly low. In the fact that I think one of the figures that I read is that animators had to draw at least
because they get paid per drawing.
I think 1,000 cuts a day for them to be able to eat. And again, it's absolutely disgusting to see that. How can someone that is so pivotal to the production of anime be paid basically for slave labor? Because it's one of the things that I found the most disgusting when I started to research the stuff behind the anime industry is that animators are paid very, very low. And even one of the figures said that animators make less than 10,000 a year. And I'm like, that's at least in the United States, that's less than minimum wage. That's less than minimum wage. Okay, so the story is divided into two cores. The first core has the team at Musani developing an original concept and bringing it to the screen. The second core is them basing off their work off a manga. Any particular thoughts on how the workflow turned out in either of those cores? Is there any core that is your favorite or something? I'm answering a lot of questions, but just want to get this ball rolling.
I'm actually really glad that you asked that question, whether we prefer the first or second core, because I was about to ask that as well, because they're similar yet different, right? The first core, I think, is very fast-paced, right? There's always, that pressure and that stress, which is also present in the second core, but I think it's a bit more present in the first core because they're literally counting hours here, before the episodes air, and they're on a very, very tight schedule. So there's lots of tension and stuff. But personally, if you were to ask me which one I prefer, I would say I prefer the second core, because the first core, a lot of the focus was on introducing the viewers to the way the industry works, the different roles in companies and stuff, and I don't find that it spent as much time on building on character development, the backgrounds and stuff and relationships. I think most of that came with the second core. Don't get me wrong, the first core still had some development, especially for the main characters, particularly Aoi, but you don't get to find out about quite a bit of the other employees, the secondary characters, until the second core. furthermore, the work pace and the work style is also very different because one thing that you have in the second core, which is really important that you don't have in the first one, is the presence of the author. And as we all know, the author proved to be a pretty big pain in the ass for the company multiple times.
I don't think it was more the author, it was more the editor not telling the author what he had to do.
The editor was intentionally like withholding information from the author.
Yeah. The editor, like, I just want to fucking punch him, to be honest. He is so annoying. He's...
You're not alone there.
Funny story, Kevin. He was actually hiding a lot of information.
Funny story.
I just love that. He said it all the time. It was so bad, it was just funny.
And that moment when he's like, oh yeah, I'm busy, and he's playing golf, right? And the two other guys are like, no. Fuck that noise. We're going and we're gonna fucking get him. And they fucking drive the golf course and drag his ass back to work, you know?
Again, this is dramatized to the point that it's comedic. This doesn't really happen in the anime industry, although I don't rule out that it can. But let's just take this as a comedic take on the matter.
So Joe, what would you say about the cores?
What I have to say about the cores, I can't really choose one over the other, to be honest. Like, they both do different things, and they do it with equal quality. It's like the first one focuses on the original animation, like making an original animation compared to adapting to a manga. And I just found like I was sweating in my seat when I was seeing like everybody struggle to like get this together. I'm like, oh, are they gonna do this in time? Is it gonna end with them not finishing the show? And it's like I was looking forward to each episode. And the second core, when they're adapting the manga, I really like the whole like plot, the whole subplot involving like the author like not hearing like the author denying everything and like making them redo everything. It was kind of putting stress on the team there too. And then when you find out at the end that like a lot of the information wasn't being told to him because of the editor.
That's the thing, because Musani was more than willing to talk to the author, and even the director himself said that I want to make an anime that's worth of being of the author's attention. And even the author himself said that he's dubious of anime adaptations because his work was adapted before Third Aerial Squad's Girl. I can't pronounce Aerial well, but whatever.
It was the one with the racing car.
Yeah, the one with the racing car, and it was god awful. And who got the hate for it? The author. So the author is justified in his reserves. Even that scene in the penultimate, in the next to last episode, in which they're sitting in this dark room, it's some very nice symbolism. But I just wanna focus on what was happening there. Is that the director was on the dark side and the author was on the lighter side. It's like a duality in which the director sees one thing but the author sees another. And I thought it was very powerful when I first saw that, because more of a metaphor of how the production of Musani about that work is going on, because the director is completely treading in the dark. And that is beautifully portrayed by this one scene that say that, hey, I think Ara should be flying. She's flying for her friends. Like all this Shiri ending and whatnot. And then the author dropped the bomb and said that each character of the squad represents a personal problem that I have. And I'm like, it is not what you think. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, that was very, very deep. I was just like, what am I seeing now? Like, this is suddenly has a subplot to it.
I think, yeah. But the good thing is that Kinoshita managed to make him come over to his side, and I think that they develop a working relationship, even though it was a little bit too late, because it was for the last episode.
Yeah,
for the last episode of the anime that they were working at.
To be fair, like they kind of made the author look like the big bad guy because he was always changing everything. When like a simple conference totally got their visions aligned between the director and the author. It was because of the editor that they couldn't get anything across, and they had to redo everything a bunch of times because they couldn't talk with the author himself.
You know what I think is that the author, while he was working, he asked for the editor to give him updates on how the production is going, and then and that's the only time in which he relayed information to the author. And that's a serious dick move.
Yeah.
A serious dick move. Especially when, like I mentioned before, the animation studio was more than willing to approach the author to get his full approval on everything that they're doing. The director's implementation of everything. And wow. The episodes in which they had to scrap everything, both the character designs and the storyboard for the last episode. I just here sitting in my seat. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I was pissed as well.
It was exhilarating to watch and almost depressing. Like, you're telling me that X hours of work of my life that I have been pouring into your work, I just had to throw them away?
Yeah, it was very infuriating. It felt really good when the editor got blasted at the end. I was just sitting in front of my TV when I was watching that episode, just slowly rubbing my hands and smiling deviously.
Yes.
I mean, that scene is probably one of my favorite scenes because, you start off with two men with, like Tyson said, it's a duality, right? Light and dark, and two guys on opposite ends of the spectrum with completely different visions for the same character, right? And then in the end, they manage to find the same vision and come to an accord, basically. And speaking of favorite moments, do you guys want to share yours?
Before we get into that, because we've been focusing on the second core too much, but there's not much talk about the first core. Any thoughts that you want to share on that?
When I saw Seichi in the first core, he was very, very laid back. As the director, he didn't really do much directing. But then I really liked his development as he went on. He developed and became somebody who just decided to slack off and didn't really care about making the show the best it could be, and trying to rush it basically, to somebody who really cares about the work. And at the end, he even felt inspiration, when he was trying to create the end of the show. When he was on that tangent, I was looking at my screen just how did you think of all of this in a matter of seconds? I just found that really, really impressive.
He had one hell of a writer's block. I think it spanned for 4 episodes or 3 episodes or something like that. Also another disclaimer. In the anime industry of today, there's rarely that many original animes, as in the storyboard's completely original, the story is completely original, unless you are a director or storyteller of importance. And the director's last word, failed spectacularly. So I have to wonder, why the choice of depicting the original story first and not and reversing the course? That's one choice I don't get.
Speaking of the director, I think I really appreciate him in both cores because he's one of the few secondary characters that gets development both in the first core and the second core. And to be honest, I think I have to disagree with Joe in some points. I don't think that he was ever, lazy and slacking off. I think he's always passionate about anime. I think that's really clear. He loves doing his job, and he really wants the anime he creates to succeed. He doesn't want other,
Well, I mean, slacking off in the sense that he kind of procrastinated a bunch of times, where he changed stuff last minute.
That's more like writer's block, sorry. I mean, he was trying to, but he just couldn't get it. I mean, I found that the biggest change, from my point of view, that happened with his character was perhaps his confidence and his vision. Whereas before he wanted to change things every 2 seconds, and that drove everyone crazy because they didn't want to restart work and all that. By the end, he has a solid vision of what he wants, and he's more confident than before.
hold that thought, Kevin, because remember that on the second core, the director was merely adapting an existing work. The first core was he was creating his own. So I think the depiction of writer's block was actually, even though it was comedically exaggerated, it's something that happens to a lot of creators, especially when they have to sit down looking at their storyboard and see, okay, how I'm going to do this, how I'm going to do this. You have a general idea of what you want to do, but you have no idea how you're going to carry that out. And not also, you have to focus on what do you want to depict to the viewer, but also if it's entertaining or not.
Yeah, if you don't like your work, it's gonna like nobody else is gonna like your work either.
Exactly.
Like people, like directors, like people are trying to create their own show. They have to drag that out for 13 episodes, and that would be very difficult, especially if you have writer's block.
It's true that, writing an original story is a lot harder than adapting one, because when you're adapting one, you have a story that's already laid out for you, so you don't have to think about the story. You just need to think about how you adapt that story to a new form of media. Whereas in the OVA, when he's creating an OVA, he has to think of every single aspect of the show. But moving on from that, I think there's one really interesting thing that I noticed, that you guys probably noticed too, all right, about the director. And it hit me like a 4x4, all right? It was shocking because when he's initially portrayed, you have people like talking back to him, yelling at him, and he's the fucking director, all right? And before watching Shirobako, I saw directors as, they're really the
top dog,
the big guys, in animation. They're up there with producers, right? Who have like ultimate control over artistic decisions and stuff. And seeing people like talk back to him, question his decisions and stuff, it was really shocking because, he's the director, right? He's supposed to be in control of everyone, but it's quite the opposite in Shirobako. Did that surprise you guys? What do you guys think of that?
It was definitely surprising in the first core. But like I noticed in the second core that people were taking him more seriously. Like he was acting more serious, and everyone was like treating him more like a director because because of his growth in the first core, he got his act together a little more, and then he ended up. And now he kind of like knows what he wants to do. Like if you see them in the second core compared to the first core, they make a lot more progress.
Definitely, and I agree with that. Mostly people talk back to him because his last project was Jiggly Jiggly Heaven, and that was received very poorly by everyone. So these people are like, you got a project again? Like, are we gonna mess up spectacularly as Jiggly Jiggly Heaven? And they were like hammering in the things that he needed to change. Overall, the development of those bear fruit in the second core, definitely. Although, at least in my perspective, how I saw this, not only from a plot point, is that I started to think about how directors, what they actually mean in the anime industry. Like, apparently they're not this sort of person that holds everything together. That's like a joint responsibility between the director and the production desk, which at that time was Honda, the guy who left in the second core to make cakes.
I love Honda. Like he definitely, especially in the second core where he's making cakes, he just comes in.
Yeah, he just comes in because
he just comes in. He loses weight too. Like you see him in the second core, he's super skinny.
He's a changed man. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed. I wanted to see more of him in the second core because I really liked him in the first core, and honestly, he's one of my favorite characters. I find that him, the director, they're really good characters, and I like him better than the director actually because I found the director to be kind of tropey, with him having writer's block all the time and not being taken seriously, and people making fun of him for Jiggly Jiggly Heaven. Whereas, it's true that Hana does have a few tropes. He's more relatable, in my opinion, right? Because he genuinely cares about his work, right? And even goes as far as, locking the director up in the closet to make sure that he completes his cuts on time. So it's really his love for the work and the way he expresses it that makes me like him so much.
Before we move on to characters, do you guys want to maybe give your maybe like a quick favorite moment from the show as a whole?
every time when the director gets mentioned Jiggly Jiggly having and the frustration that it comes, that was like hilarious. I also love there was this episode rather when they were doing sound effects that Aoi went to deliver an instrument that they needed for a specific scene, and then she got pulled in to do sound effects, and I'm like, this is how sound effects is actually done. And I mean, I'm an audio guy, but I've never dealt with this type of engineering sound that they did in Shirobako, so that is new knowledge to me. Like, really?
For me, I have quite a lot, so I think I'll just go with okay, I'll say the end and just about every moment where the entire group is together, because I find that the anime really shines when you see this dynamic between the main characters, and I don't think that we have enough moments of the main characters being together, outside of work and just enjoying themselves, right? Secondly, the ending, the speech specifically. I really like the speech, that the director makes when the anime airs, and it really shows...
Which of the two?
It's the speech like on the very last episode.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it really wraps up the series as a whole, and it also shows just how much his character has developed since episode 1. There's also a third layer actually that I think it's kind of the people making this anime trying to speak directly to the viewer. They're like, look, this is how the industry works. We're people who are passionate. We love making anime, and we hope you enjoy it, right? So it's really a direct message from the studio to the viewer, which I found was really cool.
Yeah, I really like those moments, but like I'd have to say my favorite moment personally was I think it was the second to last episode or the third to last episode. It was when the director was going to see the author of the manga.
That was great. That was great as well.
Yeah, when he dresses up as a cowboy, he just walks in and just destroys three of the higher ups using like parodied Street Fighter moves.
That's something that
Hadu belly, sure you belly.
that's something that Bish mentioned, but it eluded me the reference to Street Fighter. And all I could think about while watching that scene is that this seems to be a reference to something, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
It's a particular character. I know what he looks like. His name is slipping me though. All right, well, I can get back to this later. But he's the fat guy in the yellow jumpsuit. You guys know what I'm talking about? What's his name?
I don't know. The fat guy in the yellow suit?
Yeah, the guy in Street Fighter 4. That's really fat.
I know who you're talking about, but I don't remember his name.
Are
now.
you talking about Ryu? He's not fat. He's
no. I know what he's talking about, but I don't remember the name of the character. Rufus. There we go.
Rufus. There you go. Rufus. That's his name. The guy with a huge beard gut. There you go. And the move that he pulls on the final guy, that's when he bounces the guy off his belly. That's one of the moves of Rufus in Street Fighter 4. So there's a nice nod right there.
There's a lot of references in this anime to other stuff.
My favorite reference: Neon Generation Evangelion.
Yeah, and there's also a reference to other studios. For instance, like the car in the car chases. The other car belongs to a company aptly called GI Staff. I wonder who they're referencing. Even Musashino Animation could be interpreted as a reference to Kyoto Animation. There's this dreamscape sequence, I think it's in episode 11, when Aoi is having trouble delivering the key animation to competent people. That there's a lot of reference to other animation studios. Even Sunrise got a mention. I think it was called Sun Up in that instance. I would also like to add to my favorite moments is besides the Kinoshita being annoyed by all the Jiggly having mentions. There's this one episode, I can't recall the number now, but do you remember the chief animator of the first corps that It goes back to the key animation, the goth Lolita girl.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's Osagawa.
Ogasawara. That's her name.
Yeah, Rinko Ogasawara.
So it was after the episode in which the character designs are rejected, and you see the other girl who's in charge of doing the character animation saying that that she needed to get up, and then Ogasawara took her to a baseball field, and I thought that was so enlightening about how creators are sensitive about their creations. And I mean, I have felt that myself, but to see this as a universal sentiment among all creators, I never thought of it that way. Also, I do have more favorite moments, but I'm gonna limit my choice to one more. There's this scene in which Aoi goes with the president of Musani to their old headquarters where And the Shoki was made, and get this view of how anime was done in the 70s and the 80s. That was wow. It was just mind-blowing. Really mind-blowing.
I have to agree with you there. Like, it was, not only was it touching, it was really nice to get an insight on how anime was made back in the day, right? Because, especially my generation, newer anime viewers, we didn't really see the older anime when it was aired. We usually see reruns, and as such, we weren't familiar with the industry back then. And it was really nice to see the newer generation of animators, and content creators giving a nod to previous generations. And it's just the flashback specifically in that episode was awesome. I think it was probably one of the most touching moments in the show.
Yeah, it made me very happy just watching that.
And even the ending song for that particular episode, it was basically the introduction to And the Shoki, even modeled just like how anime was made in the 70s and the 80s. Wow, I just have to think of how computers have changed almost everything. I can't even begin to imagine how much work you would have to do back in those days to getting anime out. Because we're talking about cells, you have to paint them by hand. I mean, just trying to wrap my mind around that, it's just...
Yeah, it's just crazy.
But again, I'm from a newer generation of anime watchers, so...
Yeah, so just the workload in the modern industry is already infamously high, right? So to picture people doing even more work back in the day, and all by hand without assistance from computers or other digital programs, is just mind-boggling, right? It's like, how did those people do it back then?
Right now, if you mess a drawing on the computer, you just can erase a line and then redo it all again. In that day, if you mess up a cell, you have to repaint it all over again. I think those guys come close to the definition of perfection, because you have to do everything almost perfectly to get it right.
Yes, indeed.
I do have more favorite moments, but I'm gonna limit myself to just those three. Let's move on to characters. We've been talking a lot about Aoi, but
and the director,
but we're probably not gonna touch on the director. But let's touch on the main characters. Let's start with Aoi to get her out of the way. As a character, how you guys feel about her?
She was I don't really know what to describe. She definitely had her charm. I gotta give her that. It was nice seeing her just move around and greet everyone, thanking them for the hard work. And it was just very nice. It was nice just seeing her move around. She felt very normal. She just felt like her usual. What was her role again? It was
production assistant in the first quarter.
Production assistant, production desk.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did pretty much normal stuff for a director. Yeah, I liked her, basically. Overall, she was pretty nice.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, I think that she's not a bad character. I don't think that she really appealed to me, to be honest. She wasn't really relatable to me as a person. She was really normal, alright?
She didn't stand out as much as a lot of the other characters.
Yeah, what I noticed about this anime is that, usually in your sitcoms and your typical slice of life anime, the characters always have this one core defining trait that, makes them relatable to the viewer. Whereas Aoi, she's very much normal. And I think it's really intentional, right? She's not supposed to be super eccentric. She's supposed to be...
She's supposed to be the character that kind of... Yeah. She's supposed to be like the viewer's quote-unquote perspective. If you know what I mean, so you can experience the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think she's a quote normal on purpose, so the viewers get a good perspective on what everyday life is in the industry and what work is like. But like I said, she's not a bad character, but I won't say that she's like my favorite character, and she's not the best protagonist, in my opinion.
Yeah, like. There are definitely times where like I wish you could have improved, or like I wish I could have seen like more of her backstory, because all I know about her is that she has a sister. But like I guess it's fine though. Like I guess it's fine. Like the character was like this, and like it's for a typical main character. It's fine. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, one small gripe I have about this is that there is character development, don't get me wrong, in this anime, but you don't get much backstory. Most of the characters are developed in the present. You don't get much insight on their past, unfortunately. And that, I think, is a pretty big crutch when it comes to making someone relatable. When you understand their past, you get to understand.
To be honest, I disagree with that assessment, because their pasts are not important. And you can already relate to the characters. It's possible to relate to the characters just by watching the dynamic between the main characters. At least in the case of Aoi, she was left as a blank slate, I think on purpose. When I mentioned like this overlapping story amidst all the industry craziness that happens, there's a really human story about how these girls want to get together and make anime someday as professionals. But throughout the whole anime, there's a lot of soul searching between the main characters and what they want to do.
Yeah.
And at least the other 4 girls have found their calling, but Aoi, I think...
She didn't change much.
She didn't. Even when I watched it through the second time, I think that was put in there on purpose. Like, they want, at least the writers want Aoi to be this character that the audience can completely relate to. And of course, you can also relate to some of the other character struggles and whatever. But I feel that this was deliberate. As for Aoi, I really have no major comment to say about her than that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I really don't.
I kind of have to disagree with you to a certain extent, Tyson, because I do find that backstory is important. Because, for example, one of the few characters that does have a backstory is the character designer, right? The person in the gothic Lolita clothing, right? And if you didn't know about her backstory and why she dresses like she dresses and stuff, I don't think that you'd appreciate her character as much as you did, because if you didn't have her backstory, as far as you're concerned, she's just this eccentric, antisocial artist, right? And
yeah, like when I saw her the first time, I found it really weird that she was very mysterious, like very
like she don't give a fuck about anything.
Yeah.
And I find that my perspective, my opinion on her character changed after seeing her backstory and seeing why she does what she does and why she so fiercely defends the newer character designer.
Well, I feel that, at least on her case, it was necessary to explain her backstory. But as far as the main characters go, I really don't think that explaining their backstories would make it any more relatable or less relatable than they already are.
Well, the same thing happened with Hiroka. Like Daisuke Hiroka, the guy that was basically a douche for the.
But basically, you're making backstory plot point here. Both with the character and Hiroka being this sort of idealist, just in the same caliber as Aoi and the rest of the girls.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of like elaborating on Kevin's point where like the backstory changes the character if they have it. It's like Hiroko was very like he was very antisocial. He wasn't interacting with everyone. Like he was basically looking down on everybody in the company. And then like when he was out drinking with Taro, then he was talking about how like he used to be like very enthusiastic about making anime, and then but like his coworkers always shunned him. So like since then he always had the mindset that anime is only made to be done.
Like that's a good example because beforehand you just see this guy who acts like a douche, right? And you know it ties into. I think the biggest point here is like, do you think that the backstory with the 5 main protagonists, you know, with the promise they made in high school, if you cut that out and you just started the anime with Aoi starting in a production company, it wouldn't be the same because you wouldn't understand why she decided to become a production assistant and why she wanted to work in the industry. Without that backstory, you don't fully understand the characters and their motivations, you know?
What I'm trying to argue is that amount of backstory is just enough for me. Trying to bring up the backstory of different characters during Hiraoka, the character designer, and even some of the characters that I can't quite remember now. I think that example that doesn't count because it was needed to progress the story. To make people like, okay, so these are her motivation for doing what she does. But what I'm trying to argue about is that tidbit of backstory in the first episode, at least for me, it was enough.
Yeah, but my point is, it's still nonetheless necessary, right? I mean, I just found that there are a lot of characters, especially the secondary ones, who were just like, oh, okay, this person fills in this role, that's it. You just take it from there, you know, and you don't really get to know them. You know them as, you know, just a manager or, you know, an employee. You don't get to know them as a person, which doesn't make you care for them as much as some of the main characters, you know? For example, in Tiger and Bunny, what I think they did really well was the backstories of the characters, right? Like, most of the side characters had their own episode, and it kind of gives you a bit of insight on their personality. And while I understand here that it's not possible with Shirobako because there's such a huge cast, I think I've liked a bit more backstory on some of the characters, you know, because I don't think they were not all the characters got the same amount of depth, in my opinion, unfortunately. Even among the main characters, I'd argue that Aoi had the most attention. Now, even though the other 4 are still relatively important.
I agree to disagree here. Anyway, let's just jump to Emma Yasuhira, the animator. What do you guys think about her?
I liked her. She like I really don't know what else to say about her. Like I don't like to say I hated her because I really enjoyed her character. It's just like she had like some small like story stuff where like how she was really struggling, like she was trying to find herself like with like a couple of the other girls. Like she was trying to find herself as somebody who likes to draw, who draws key animation. And like at first she was really like at one point she was really struggling, and then she kind of just ended up going with the flow, and by the end she overcame that obstacle that like prevented her from being the best at what she does.
For me, I find that she was a pretty nice character, and I could relate to her, and I think a lot of people can relate to her to a certain extent, because, I mean, she's sort of a cliche character, but at the same time, she's relatable nonetheless, because she's, you know, she's kind of insecure, she doesn't know what she wants, she isn't quite confident in her abilities yet, right? So she knows that she likes drawing and being a key animator, but she doesn't know if she's ready for all that responsibility, and she doesn't know if she's really ready to, you know, to do her job correctly. So it's really this insecurity that makes her relatable to a large number of people, you know? So she's timid, but yet at the same time she's determined. There's not much else to say about her, to be honest. Well, for me at least.
And you pretty much took the words out of my mouth. So let's move to Midori, Diesel-chan.
I don't know what to say about her. It's like she wasn't.
If she's the scenario writer, just in case you don't know who she is, the one who has that ponytail on the side.
To be honest, the fact I can't really recall much about her kind of really says some things.
Wow, that's cruel. That's cruel.
You know what I mean? No, I love Midori in the show. It's just that, like, I can't remember exactly like what she contributes to the show.
She does research. So basically, in the first course, she doesn't do too much. I'll get to that later about one of my gripes about the show. But she makes more appearances in the second half of the show, where she initially does some research for Aoi. I think the main reason she got her Diesel nickname is because she was doing research on diesel trains for Aoi, right? And then
No, I definitely remember her in the second core. Like, I definitely remember her being nicknamed Diesel-san, or I don't know how that formality works, and like how she did all this different research on because like they were trying to animate aircrafts, so she kind of needed to do research.
I can't blame you for not remembering her in the first core, though, because she doesn't do all that much in the first core compared to some of the other main characters. It's really in the second core that she really shines, to be honest.
Not that I disagree, but more coming to the realization that you actually make a good point. And I really don't know how to contest that.
Oh my god.
Holy shit! This just in, Tyson does not object to my opinion. Oh my god. Tyson, Senpai has noticed me.
Kevin, your best girl sucks.
Wow, that was a big comeback.
I don't have one. It's a good thing I don't have one then, eh?
Anyway, let's move on to Misa Toto, the 3D animator.
Oh, I definitely remember her. Like, she was
Okay, you know what? I might have lied. Maybe this is sort of my best girl for this anime, but not really. But yeah, continue.
Wait, what?
No, you don't. No, too bad. You didn't listen. All right, let's continue. Too late, Tyson. You missed your shot.
But anyway, like she was the she was in CG, wasn't she?
Yeah, CG.
Yeah, like she was basically making tires for a living, and like she didn't really like it, so she kind of like jumped around and like she started out making just like solely making animating tires, which she didn't really enjoy. So she ended up moving to a smaller company that that still helps with making like car parts and stuff like that, including tires, but they actually it actually contributes to like a story.
I personally think that her realization that she didn't want to do tires for a living and that company that she worked at only got tire job was actually quite gutsy. And I think this is one of the characters that in a way finds herself first out of the whole main cast as to what she wants to do and everything. So I definitely have some sort of admiration for her, even though in the second core, she became this completely forgettable character. I only remember her because she quit her job and the reasons why she did that, honestly.
Yeah.
I would argue that she's more forgettable than Diesel-chan, but there's a little bit of bias there. But there's a little bit of bias.
Oh, wait. Does that mean that Diesel-chan is your best girl? Because you said that she wasn't.
Wait, Kevin, check. Does she have blue hair? Is that a really dark blue or is it just black?
It's purple.
I would think that Misa would be his favorite character, because short hair, right? That's one of the criteria that's filled. But
That's how wrong you are about me. Not all my girls have blue hair, short hair, gums, or all three together.
I have empirical evidence that supports that. Okay, we can
screw your empirical evidence. Fuck your empirical evidence.
She doesn't have blue hair, but she has short hair. She has. Oh, she
But she doesn't
wears a blue
cross-dress, so
shirt.
that's the main problem. But
Hey, we don't know. Hey, we don't know if that's a boy or a girl. I'm just gonna put
Kevin,
that
you
out
just
there.
mad that Marika just fell off the top 3 Nisekoi favorite characters. You just mad.
But I think I know one of the main reasons why Misa isn't Tyson's favorite character, and that's because I noted that I think she has really cute design, but she looks like Yozora's older sister, if Yozora had an older sister, right? Just the short hair and the eyes. I don't know why. Something made me think of Yozora.
No,
in season
there's
2.
nothing related. There's nothing related. Misa is actually
No,
nice.
in terms of,
Yes!
appearance.
Yes!
Appearance. I'm not saying in terms of personality. I'm saying in terms of appearance. She reminded me of Yozora.
Okay, since you guys want to have the discussion now, I want to keep it as short as possible. My favorite.
Oh, wait a second. Wait, we forgot about Shizuka.
Huh?
Shizuka.
The voice actress. Yeah, let's go with it.
How dare you? How dare you forget about the most impactful girl?
Dude, she only gets a job at the last episode.
You don't understand.
well,
you
guys-
know how much she's been dealing with.
Joe
Was
made it
denied
very
over
clear.
and over again, and
Okay,
she still kept us
Joe's
smile.
making it very clear who his best character is, alright?
Okay. Since Joe is passionate about Ishizuka, let him start.
It's like I really. She's very admirable. I think she's the most admirable of all 5, and I'm saying that like with a serious expression because like even though she was denied multiple times when she very clearly had a chance, she always she kept going. Like she didn't kind of just give up and like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. She kind of just kept going, hoping like she would get accepted someday, which I really really liked about her character. And I always saw her with a smile. Like I almost always saw her like very happy, which made me feel good.
Honestly, I don't know how I feel about Shizuka's constant glum scenes as to, oh my god, I got rejected, and she got like really confused and doubtful about her craft, and I wouldn't say because she's my best girl, but I obviously have my eye on her for obvious reasons. She's a voice actress. I know I deal with audio, so this character is the prime candidate of being used to explain things that I don't quite understand about audio production and everything. But in my case, I'm interested in her more on a technical perspective of storytelling as to what they can do with her. But honestly, I didn't care about her being constantly glum in some scenes. Like, I feel an audition. What am I gonna do now? And I don't know.
You know what? Like, I'll just say my gripe now about the anime. Like you said, Tyson, I find that Shizuka, she's not forgettable. I found that the glum scenes, they had their role, they had their part to play in the anime. It's just we don't see her too often. And I'll get into my point here. My main gripe with this anime is this inconsistency with the quote-unquote main characters, because it seems to me that, obviously Aoi is the protagonist, right? So obviously the story revolves around her primarily anyway. But since the group of friends don't all work at the same place in the beginning, and they all have their own paths, you don't see as much of the other characters compared to Aoi and Emma, because they work in the same studio. You see them the most. The 3 other ones, they pop up from time to time, and it's just like when they're not on screen, you have a tendency just to forget about them. When they pop back on, it's like, oh yeah, I remember. There's this character. She's in the anime, right? Totally didn't forget about her.
I can see where you're coming from here. I can see it, but if anything, it's a depiction of how, like for instance, anime studios don't hire voice actors in-house to be able to do all their productions directly. They submit their roles to auditions and everything. So, although this kind of critique could also go, like, for instance, why didn't Misa apply to have a job at Musani? Because Musani does have a 3D division. Or maybe she was just looking for the experience to get her started. Or maybe the CG division of Musani didn't have any sort of space open for her to jump in. I think it was Diesel.
Well, remember, she didn't have much experience, so because she was still new to
but
the thing.
then again, none of them did.
Then again, none of them are. So I think Diesel-chan slipped in, and it was by pure coincidence, really. That she got a job as a scenario writer at Musani, but
yeah, for Shizuka, and what's her face, Diesel, you can understand why they don't get too much screen time because, Diesel is the college student, right? So she can't work in the studios, whereas Misa, what's her face? Zuka, there you go. Shizuka. She is a voice actress, so obviously, as Tyson said, you can't work in studio. It's a completely different thing. But in spite of that, I still find it disappointing that we don't get the same amount of screen time for all the characters. Because, they could be interesting, and they do get some development. It's just, it's not equally balanced between all the characters, and that's what kind of kills the characters for me. Some of them I'm like, oh yeah, I quite like this character, and some of them it's just like, don't really give a shit about them.
I see. Any comment on the secondary characters, and I will start. I fucking hate Taro. I fucking hate him.
Yes, he is the shoe of fucking Shirobako, right? He's just there as a punching bag for jokes, and he's fucking annoying, alright?
I don't mind him being the punching bag, but I mind him being fucking annoying.
He's more interesting than Shu, though. Let's just be honest.
But still, it's like, god damn it, I don't know how frustrating it is to see him and what's his face, Mr. I'll be a dick to everyone. Hiroka? Is that?
No, the thing with Shu is that he was a pattern. Taru, at least, even though he still kept that big ego, he alternated between different things. Where with Shu, all I remember is him making a weird face and then getting destroyed by Miyamoto.
But at least that's my comment on Taro. Let's see, other secondary or tertiary characters that let's see.
That you enjoyed?
Yeah, enjoy.
What about Sugi? Suji?
The old animator?
Yeah, the old animator.
About him, I really don't have comment.
He was very sweet.
He is, but I don't have any sort of comment that I could otherwise expand on among him. I do clearly remember Taro annoying me. Hiraoka, it was like, by the end of the anime, I don't know if he returned to his idealist self or he's still not giving a shit.
I find him so annoying. I'm surprised that you're more or less apathetic from what I see towards him, because Hiroka to Shirobako is like Yozora to Hagenai, and that Hiroka is just this person that doesn't give a shit about anyone thinks. He doesn't really give a shit about, handing stuff on time. He acts like he's all that just because, he has a bit more experience than Aoi. And he's sexed as well, when he insults Diesel in episode 20, and he's like, oh yeah, it must be nice to be a woman, right? So he's like this pouty little bitch. That, like Yozora, you find out his background and you see why he is the way he is. But in spite,
I mean, here's the thing, and I'm sorry about this, Bish, but Hiroka's backstory was actually good. It was actually impactful.
What?
I don't agree, to be honest.
But real talk though, I actually did like Yozora's backstory. It made her make me like her a little more.
So that's why he would get annoyed. Although Bish, when he was here, he would be wrecking you for those comments. Bish, whatever you are, get better.
Yeah.
So about Hiroka's backstory is that was inherently clear that he's just as idealist as Aoi about making anime. Mm-hmm. And he even had higher ambition. He wanted to win awards for shows that he was part of the production crew. But then he's depicted as this character who the world is so glum and everything sucks. Something like that. But don't get me wrong, I absolutely hated him on my first run of Shirobako. But then I sort of excuse his motives. He
opened up to you a little bit.
So, sort of, yeah. And I know that sounds incredibly wrong, but...
God damn it, guys, why? Don't put that image in my head. God damn it.
I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I zoned out there for a few seconds.
Oh, another character that I hate. Who's this little girl that always pesters Emma during the second core? That she's a key animator?
Oh, the super insecure girl with short hair?
The ultra shy girl.
I don't I didn't really give a shit about her.
I fucking hate her. She's
hang on. You fucking hypocrite, Tyson. So you hate her.
What?
No, you hate her, but you're completely okay with Aichan because, he's Aichan. You fucking hypocrite.
Hang on, because Aichan, at least, he's not crippled by the thought of talking to people. Unlike this woman, okay?
Okay, well, that's kind of mean because what if she's just really nervous? You can't,
No.
judge someone for being.
Guys, the character we're talking about is Ai Kunogi.
Yeah, from Free.
The
guy with gray hair that is always like, senpai, notice me, senpai. Is like fucking.
What? No, she has brown hair.
No, we're talking about Aichan.
Oh.
No, hang on, because it's one thing to say, senpai notice me, and another is just making all this sort of guttural sounds like, oh, ah.
Yeah. No, but like
that's
the thing
who,
is
that's
that
who she
annoyed
is.
me less than Aichan because like he's repeating the same stupid trope over and over and over, and it was like driving. And he did it in that super high pitched voice as well, which was really annoying.
I like how one of the only times that Kunogi actually speaks is when she's reading
underwear.
Is like, is this underwear?
Oh my god. She only speaks for that, and no. No.
It's just amazing. I love her so much.
How about the president? Any comments on that guy?
Oh man, if you hate him, I'll never talk to you again.
I just love when he has a conference meeting, right? And he ends it with some sort of weird pose or something, and after everyone's just like
take off.
There's a pause, and after there's a slow clap,
That was supposed to be depicted in the anime they were producing. Apparently it's a line.
Ah, okay.
And also the president, he's the kind of guy, and this is my only comment on him to be honest. He's the kind of guy whose cooking I would like to taste. Because he always spend his time cooking.
No, you don't see him doing. You don't see him like being the president. You don't see him like doing paperwork.
No,
you
he's like that very nice grandpa who never stops feeding you.
If you recall the episode in which he and Aoi go over to the old Musashino pictures, and you see this flashback as to how work wasn't there, I think I kind of understood a little bit better that grandpa stuff that he does. He was always taking care of everybody, and of course, like, he's the president. He takes care more of the managerial side rather than the creative stuff. He's the kind of person that would go into meetings to pitch his studio for a new project, so he can hand over to his creative staff. Something like that.
You never really see him doing his job as a president, though. Like, you could replace his title from president, and you can make it cook, and literally nothing would change, because that's all he does. He either cooks or he leads meetings. That's like the two things he does.
No, but if we do that, we are taking Shirobako at face value as a story, because every animation studio has a president, and every of those presidents do managerial jobs. Like, for instance, both the president, the general manager, the lady who ends up running to deliver the last episode to some studio, remote studio, whatever. And the executive producer, those people always do managerial jobs somehow, with the maybe exception of the executive producer rather, that he's sort of in touch with the managerial side and the creative side of things. So before removing the president from his spot, it's just like managing an anime studio isn't exciting to watch at all. So I understand why they didn't give focus into that, but I also disagree on removing his character entirely.
I would like to remove him. It's just like I just found it weird that you never see him doing work as a president, right? He always cooks, or sometimes does awkward poses after meetings.
I'd say it adds to the charm of the show. Mm-hmm. Like, it's kind of like you expect the president to be very serious, but like he just kind of lightens everyone up and keeps your spirits high. Which, like, I've never seen him like frown.
Yeah.
Besides that one scene when Yano gets a call that her father is feeling really ill at the hospital.
I mean, I think it's also an element that kind of.
Oh, and even then, it's like he makes lunch so that she can eat it on the way to the hospital.
I think that the president not really doing his job as the president kinda is related to what they did with the director. Him not having complete control over his crew and his cast. It kind of makes everyone on the same level. So there's this camaraderie amongst all the employees in the company, and so this hierarchical structure that you typically see in normal businesses.
They have to. They have to keep that that business environment working.
Yeah, if they're making an anime, like you can't exactly take a break. You kind of gotta keep going.
It's like when Hiroka and and the one who's in charge of cleaning up the director's storyboards get into a fight. You know how the general manager came in like, don't resolve this with violence. Fostering animosity, violence in the working environment doesn't do too much for creativity. It actually kills it.
Yeah. Are there any other supporting characters or like main characters you want to talk about before we move on?
Not me.
I think we covered pretty much all the notable ones anyway. The other ones are just kind of they're there. They're not particularly notable or really important, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
So let's hop into audiovisual. Any comments on any aspect of the audio in the show?
What, does this include the openings and endings?
Yeah, let's go into that.
Oh my god, you guys don't know how much I love the second ending. Like the ending from the second core.
Na luna, luna, na luna, luna. I love that one.
Oh, it was so colorful. It sounded so beady. If that you can say that. It just made me feel really upbeat and happy and sweet, and like my heart just melted.
Well, it is a song made by the five girls, the five voice actresses, Donut Quartet.
Yeah, and I really liked. I don't know if I can talk about this in the audio portion, but when they were like in the ending song, when they were also kind of coloring in, like drawing and coloring in the characters in the ending, like I found that really, really cool.
It's basically a time lapse of how characters are colored and put into backgrounds and everything.
Yeah, it's a very nice touch.
The animation and the opening and endings it's pretty standard across the board. Well, I mean, sorry, it's really consistent across the board, and it's really, really nice. It's high quality. I also, like Joe said, like the fact that some of the frames weren't colored in. It kind of reminds you of the subject of the show, right? Of, the making of anime. In terms of songs, though, I find that they were all pretty decent, and none of them are great. I wouldn't save these songs on my phone or something and just listen to them.
Well, I wouldn't save these songs on the first core. Like the first core songs were alright, but like when we got to the second core, I really enjoyed the opening and ending for those. So I probably listened to those on my own time.
I actually found that the first opening was pretty nice. The second ending was okay for me. I didn't like it that much. I mean, it was like a typical upbeat slice of life ending, in my opinion. Then again, I am more into orchestral pieces, so I might have a slight bias there.
Well, I definitely agree with Joe that I also like the second core ending, especially with the details of these characters just being drawn, painted in, and placed into the background and everything. That was a nice touch. And as for the actual song, yes, I do have it on my phone. I love that song.
Oh, the second ending?
The second ending, yes.
Oh god, it's like Persona 4 all over again. He's gonna listen to nothing but that for the next 5 months.
Oh my god. And you may be actually right. I would also have to agree with you.
With who?
With you, Kevin, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Is that I find the intro and outros for both to be decent. They are consistent because they're really upbeat themes, although this may have more to do with a message that the creators were trying to deliver about the anime industry, about being optimistic and everything, and they needed this upbeat music to reflect that. And I recall at one occasion, the second opening kind of driving me to tears. When I watched it for the second time, all I could think about was the scene when Aoi got everyone reunited together to do a show, and she started crying. And for some reason, when I started to see the jets coming with all the 5 characters in it, it's kind of like a little tear just slip into my eye. I kind of get sentimental about this stuff.
You know, there were many times where there were a lot of times during the show, the opening and endings, where I could have just cried, but I had to hold it all in.
As for the rest of the score, it's
It wasn't really notable in my opinion.
honestly, it's like we've been pretty much spoiled by the orchestral scores of Attack on Titan and Blast of Tempest to say like there's nothing like that.
Well, except for me.
Unfortunately, I think that Blast of Tempest and Attack on Titan are kind of like it's the golden standard in which I will compare all future anime now, unfortunately. And it's unfortunate because both of those anime have very orchestral scores, right? So I personally think that I'm kind of biased now towards a score that's not orchestral, because I find that those scores are usually the ones that are the best at conveying emotion. But we may have another anime in the future that might change my opinion. But I found that the OST in this anime was all right. I mean, it was run of the mill. It wasn't notable, to be honest. It was just there and it did its job. That's all I can say.
It isn't exactly forgettable, but it's not something like you would order the OST from Amazon or something or somewhere else.
Exactly. It gets the job done, right?
What do you guys think of the voice acting?
Oh, I adored the voice acting.
I found it was good. It was solid.
Yeah, it was a nice solid voice acting. It's really hard for me to judge voice acting in the show when it kind of also, since it's a show about making anime, it kind of focuses on making dubs too. So they're going to be different voices.
For the voices, I don't have much to say. I mean, I'd say it's like an 8 out of 10, so it's slightly above average. But it's not something that struck me. There's not like, a moment where I said, you know what, whoa, this voice actor did a really good job of portraying this character, It doesn't strike me, but it's good. It's solid.
I agree. I'd give it like a solid 8, maybe an 8.5, like slightly above average.
Yeah, I would also agree with that assessment. Let's go into our styling animation. Comments?
Ooh, yes.
The discussion begins.
Yeah. Okay. I think that the animation it's like a baby's skin. It's buttery smooth. It's just so nice and fluid. And
You're a little too into this, Kevin.
Also.
If you guys could see Kevin's face right now, he's having an orgasm. Like,
yeah, no, this guy's like closing his eyes and imagining himself in heaven.
Guys, TMI, you don't need that in the listeners' head. They don't want that image.
Unfortunately, this is an audio only podcast, so yeah.
And they don't know what my face looks like, so they just picture Phi, So that's even more awkward.
So Phi having an orgasm.
Oh, we don't need to discuss Rule 34 for Virtue's Last Word. But anyways, I found that the art style is pretty nice. And what I noticed is that, I don't know if you guys noticed it while watching, but there's a difference. There are two main different art styles that are being used here. There's one art style that's being used for the main characters, specifically the younger ones, actually.
Well, there's like CG animation and key animation. Like 3D and 2D.
Yeah, they weren't drawn 3D, but they follow the newer anime style, whereas the adults, particularly, the president and stuff, those characters are drawn, in my opinion, along the lines of older art styles that was used in like, the 1990s and 80s. So that's something I noticed. That's something that they probably did intentionally to separate the older generation of animators and artists from the newer generation,
Oh, yeah, I suppose so. I really liked how they tackled like the different animation styles in that, where like they talked about key animation, where it's like drawing the different characters and like making a bunch of like maybe like a flip book of sorts. And like when they talked about CG, which was more like the 3D animation, like rendering everything, smoothing everything out, like making everything roam around in a 3D space, while also implementing it's like you can kind of collaborate that with the key animation, which is the 2D art. Like it kind of transitions from 3D to 2D, and I really like how the characters kind of work it out. And you see it a lot in a bunch of different shows, and they brought it up a lot in a bunch of animes and a bunch of different shows I've seen, where like sometimes they'll show 3D animation to maybe like portray different action scenes, and then they'll transition to 2D, which kind of focuses like on the characters and then it'll kind of like transition between 2D and 3D, and then it'll kind of maybe sometimes it'll focus on one thing and sometimes focus on the other, like mostly compared to the other one. And yeah, it's really cool.
Specifically about the 3D CGI that's used, I think that this is one of the few anime that does it very well, because honestly, it's so well implemented in the anime that you really have to look for it sometimes to know the difference between the CGI and the normal 2D art, because it's blended in so effectively. But I wanted to bring up 3D CGI because in the second core, where they make extensive use of 3D CGI, it's very well done with the planes, right? And it reminds me a lot of the 3D CGI that was present in Girls Unter Panzer. I don't know if you guys have ever watched that, but the tanks, they're beautifully animated in 3D CGI, and they're historically accurate as well, right? And they did a magnificent job at showing these fighter jets in the second core. So I just want to, give a nod to the studio for representing the jets accurately.
Yeah, I think that was like one of the highlights of the show to me. Like where like they kind of when they were modeling all the planes, like doing the research, and then they made everything fly, and then like the different poses, the different perspectives, different shots. It was awesome. Like I just loved it. And then when they showed the final product, when they were because like sometimes they'll show little previews of what they were making. Like sometimes they showed clips of Exodus, and sometimes they showed clips of Aerial Girls. I think it was pronounced, yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was very cool. They did a really good job with the 3D style, like making me feel the action.
Use of 3D in Shirobako. I have to agree with the sentiment that is done incredibly well. This is something that I've been thinking of, is that I've been noticing a lot of things that I didn't notice on the first run that were made into 3D, and I kind of came to the conclusion that 3D animation that you can't really notice is 3D well done. I actually noticed that the whole Musani building is made in 3D, and I actually thought that was hand drawn, but no, it was actually modeled.
Didn't notice. Wait, was it really drawn in 3D?
Yes. You have to notice it really carefully to see it, but yes, it
this is what I'm talking about. I didn't even notice, right?
There are certain parts in which it's 2D, of course, but if you take a long shot of the whole building, that's actually modeled in 3D.
Wow,
I didn't know that.
Really?
No, I didn't notice at first.
Yeah, that flew over my head.
It totally flew over mine as well. But when we do smaller cuts, then yes, that's drawn by hand. But wide shots, that's 3D, and I was actually quite impressed with that.
I'm curious, Tyson, when did you notice this? Did you notice this just now during the first watch? When did you notice that it was in 3D? Because, I mean, I think that 3D CGI, it is best used when it is blended in with 2D animation, because there's nothing that kills the mood more than watching a 2D anime and suddenly having huge objects that are animated in 3D that stick out like a sore thumb, because that really it kills the immersion, to be honest, right? So when people manage to blend it in and sneak it without the viewer necessarily noticing, it's beautiful. It's when it gets in the way and it's blatantly obvious that it's really ugly and kind of deteriorates the experience.
That's mark of bad 3D usage, because by default anime is a 2D medium. So if anything, I'd say that computers are the intruders here, but find a way for them to coexist together, and you have actually good 3D usage, which is pretty much what we're gravitating towards now. And I believe, Kevin, you asked that when I noticed that the Musani building was rendered in 3D, was somewhere along the second core that I noticed that it was done in 3D.
First watch through or second watch through?
Second time watching, and it was somewhere in the second core.
So basically it just flew over your head the first time you watched and you didn't notice it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is what I'm talking about. They did a really good job with 3D CGI, and unfortunately, I think that not a lot of studios can do this. I mean, I brought it up on Tiger and Bunny, but I'll bring it up again. I found that the 3D CGI in Ghost in the Shell is kind of like a textbook example of what you shouldn't do in 3D CGI, because what they would do is they'd have a scene in 2D, and then they'd make a transition to full-on 3D CGI, which looks really bad. So just don't do that.
No, but that's where I debated the overuse of 3D in Tiger and Bunny, and basically attributing it to exploring new techniques to using Gundam. That's the only way I could justify the excessive amount of CG usage in Tiger and Bunny.
All right, so I think that, you know what, before we wrap up audiovisual, sound effects and design, do you guys have any comments? Because I don't think that this anime has many sound effects to judge it off of. You know, like there aren't any guns or anything where you can judge how well they replicate the sound.
Yeah, there weren't much effects. It was just more of the background music.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say about sound effects. How about you, Tyson?
The most I have to say about sound effects is that creative use of sound effects were only done in episode 10, but it was a sound effects episode, so
yeah,
not much other than that.
All right, let's move on to gripes and grumbles. So, do you guys have any things that you didn't quite like about the anime?
I didn't really give it much thought because I was very invested in the show. But like, I guess.
Wait, do you have any gripes? You don't have to have any gripes. To be
honest, I don't really have many. It's like I really think the show like was played out well from beginning to end. I guess in the first core could have been a little slower, because when I was watching it, I was very confused. Like I didn't have time to take in what was going on. So like I guess like if it were a little slower, then it would have been easier to like take in and understand better. Like make me appreciate it a little more.
Not sure if this is a gripe or you can consider it as one, but you know how in the first core everyone is introduced by their name and titles, like every single time, and there was a sudden time when that stopped. I can understand that stopping for the main characters, but the secondary characters also dropping off just all of a sudden, expecting me to know their names and everything. I know, no, I don't am a fan of that.
I didn't try to follow the names while I was watching. I was just like, okay, that guy's the director, that guy's producer. I just remembered them by role.
I remember them by role as well, but by name, no, not at all. I don't know if this is a product of the fast pace of the anime, and again, this is completely deliberate, because that's how things move in the industry. But I'm not sure if from a storytelling point I like it. That's pretty much the only thing I noticed that I have some sort of gripe about. All in all, this show is incredibly well done. I don't have like a footing to take my bitching into some place.
Yeah, we spent all of our bitching on Taro, so that's all good and done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I actually like Taro. Don't like give him come slack.
You know what I will do now, Joe? To spite you, I'm gonna add Taro to my list of hated characters.
Right. Oh my god, I'm so triggered.
I don't think Joe really gives a shit.
Yeah, I don't really give a shit.
Kevin.
I'm sorry, Tyson. I love you.
I think that you guys both make interesting points about gripes, because, I mean, there's a question of, okay, would have been better if they slowed down the pace? Because, yes, if they slowed down the pace, people wouldn't get as lost. It would be more accessible to newer audiences. But at the same time, if we lose that authenticity, because they're trying to portray the fast-paced lifestyle of animators and producers and stuff, right? Because they're always rushing around trying to get stuff done, get stuff completed before the deadline, right? So there's really this conflict between authenticity and accessibility, I guess.
No, that's a very good point. That makes a lot of sense.
I think I already said my gripe. It was just the only thing that I have to say that's kind of sort of negative about this anime is really the inconsistencies in the main characters. I find that the characters did not get equal screen time, so there are some that I really like, and some it's just like meh. So that's the only gripe. The other parts of the anime I quite liked, so not much to say there.
So to move on, would you want to watch a second season of Shirobako?
Yes.
Any particular reason why, Joe? Is there something that you want to see explored more that would justify?
Zuka.
Okay, so
Only reason.
Zuka, yes. Okay, so I want I kind of want to see maybe like other projects they take on, maybe like OVAs. I want to see more Zuka. I want to see more Kunogi. I want to see more development between the characters. I want to see even more Zuka, even more Kunogi, and then I kind of want them like to expand. Maybe I know there's a lot of characters, but I also want them to expand. Like maybe throw some new characters into the mix. Like maybe like make a huge overarching plot. Like that would be really cool. And also it goes without saying, but more Zuka and more Kunigi.
Kevin.
I was initially conflicted with this because when I watched the first core, I was like, okay, you know what, Shirobako, it's a show that tries, whose main goal is to represent the industry, not one that tries to develop the characters. That's a secondary goal. That's what I initially thought when I was watching the first core. But gradually, as the characters got more and more development during the second core, I changed my mind. I was like, you know what, okay, the characters are actually pretty important to the story. So with that in mind, I think a second season is welcome, but it's not absolutely necessary. I wouldn't blame them if they decide not to go with a second season. That's because I find that, you know, they succeeded in their goal of representing the industry and giving people an inside look on what it's like to produce anime. But at the same time, there are some loose ends that they could address. Like, you know, what happens to main characters afterwards? Do they ever get to make that animation that they really wanted to do in high school together? But I want a second season most of all, not for the main characters in season 1, but because I want to see more of the newer cast members in the second core, like that new girl with, you know, the black and yellow hair, I forget her name, and then there's that one really shy girl that you mentioned, Tyson, that you absolutely hate. I want to know more about these characters, right? Maybe there's more to them, you know, maybe we're shitting on them because, you know, they're just defined by a single trope in this season. Maybe there's more to them that we can see if there were a second season that was produced, you know? But I wouldn't die if there wasn't a second season. So I'm kind of like indifferent.
So the prospects of a Shirobako season 2, I think pretty much everyone who watched it, at least in the corner of any Twitter where I hang out, want a second season of Shirobako. But I had to question, what exactly is there to make about a second season of Shirobako? I came up with some ideas, but it'll probably be pressing some back moves on the industry that are quite harsh. For instance, I was thinking about how could a unionized animator create the creative stuff under a union could be tackled. But how to integrate that into the story of these 5 girls who want to make anime together, I just don't see that happening.
Well,
also,
I kind of, I would just want to see maybe even a short series of them trying to make the movie they so wanted. They really wanted to remake.
Well, there is an OVA though, isn't there? There are 2 special episodes. I didn't watch them, but what is it about?
There's an OVA, but it's about I think 2 episodes is about Exodus and Aerial Girls. So it's actually an OVA about the animes they produced. It's like we have to make this distinction before we confuse people. Like, throughout this whole, throughout Shirobako, they're working on animes, of course. But the OVAs of Shirobako are about the animes they were working on. It's an episode of Exodus and an episode of Third Aerial Girls. I don't know what they're about. I haven't watched them myself. So
I actually want to watch it now because Exodus, I don't really care about, but the show they're working on, the second core, the fighter jets, I'm a pilot, so I really want to see the jets in action. And the 3D CGI, like I said, was pretty nice, so I might check that out.
Actually, I didn't mention this earlier, but like, as much as I love the second core and I would not want to see it replaced, I was kind of hoping that after, like, since I was shocked by like the 26 episode length. I thought maybe like, the first core is going to be them making the anime, and then like the second core is going to be the anime they were working on.
And also another thing, what is there for the girls to be able to do much better? For instance, Aoi, what is next after having the production desk? Director? she's gonna directing anime. As for Emma, she already did animation supervision. So what's next? Character design. I mean, how is the ladder of command going to up the ante? I don't know what would be the equivalent of in Mrs.'s case.
One idea that I had is it's not necessarily a good one, but it could work. Perhaps a second season focusing on the newer employees at the studio, that revolves around them. So we have more development for those secondary characters that we didn't see much of, and we see how the main characters from the first season are adapting to their new roles higher up in the chain of command, so to speak.
If anything, a second season of Shirobako, the only way I can see it working is with a new cast of characters and maybe some nods to the original Shirobako. Like, for instance, Musani is contacted to do commission work for something. So, for instance, Aoi may be delivering the materials to them. It's like, hey, that's for Shirobako 1.
So you mean like a spin-off series?
Not necessarily spin-off, but continuation.
I'd be really disappointed if they didn't name the continuation Kurobako. Because, Shiro means white. Yeah, Shiro means white and Kuro means black.
Well,
so.
I hope there isn't Kurobako, the anime, because that means that it involves lots and lots of plane crashes. It'd be an anime about... I'm not even gonna say it, right? No. It's just...
No, Kevin, let's not go too far.
No, but seriously, I'm curious to see how would a train wreck of an anime look like. So this whole throwback to Jiggly Jiggly having, I think that would be interesting to see. Like, how would an anime fail so spectacularly? I would be interested in watching that, even as an OVA. As they get to see the troubled development of an anime that just barely made it.
Guys, I have a question for you. If you could summarize your experience watching Shirobako, or if you can summarize a show and everything it includes into one sentence, what would that sentence be?
I can't focus on drawing anime if my tears are all over it.
But is there any role that you would want to take from the ones that were depicted in the anime?
Ooh, I'd want to be the, I'd want to help with story writing.
You want to be a story writer. Okay.
I really like making stories. Like, often, I'll usually walk around maybe commuting, or like a commuting or during school. I'll always have this, one story in my head that I always, telling to myself, kind of developing, because maybe someday because my dream is to make video games when I'm older. So maybe I can turn that storytelling into put it into a game.
Question: Do you walk around with a notepad or something that you just jot down your ideas on the go?
Not really. It's all in my mind, and sometimes I'll listen to music, which kind of amplifies my thoughts, so I can kind of focus in on a certain thing I want to develop.
Okay, Kevin.
All right. I was thinking the same question while I was watching this because. I came up with two roles that I think I would like to do in the industry, all right? First one is setting production. So basically doing the job that Diesel was doing for the studio. Basically that involves lots and lots of research, right? And I love research. I'm OCD about research, right? I'm a huge history buff, and I just love planes and stuff, which is exactly what Diesel was doing, so I was really happy for that, and I was really excited about that. Secondly, voice actor, just because we're doing a podcast here, right? So obviously, I like talking and I like acting, so voice acting allows you to do both those things without, having the same anxiety with normal acting, where you're in front of a camera. So I think voice acting is kind of the best of both worlds.
As for me, I think it's kind of obvious. Sound design. As for other role other than sound design, I used to draw, but I'm not sure if I would be good enough at that to make it into a living. I certainly enjoy a creative pursuit. Maybe production decks or something, or production assistant.
Can I recommend a job for you, Tyson?
What?
I think that you should become the head of a studio because you fucking love cooking, you know, with all those canned pork chops, you know. You love cooking,
Oh my
so
God.
might as well become
Yeah,
president.
he could become the president. Or he could become the producer and then just go out. Just like make a little cake shop next to the studio.
And people would be having a meeting and you just go around handing out canned pork chops to everyone.
No.
Oh god, no. Tyson is like Honda in real life, basically. He has this hidden dream of becoming a chef, you know? He's not telling us about.
Actually, I have dreamt about being a chef when I was younger.
Just imagine Tyson in an apron, right? Just picture that.
A very girly apron.
Yeah, so for your listeners out there, since you don't know what Tyson looks like, just picture Itachi in a pink apron.
That's pretty hot.
Well, the thing about that is that the audience doesn't have to imagine it. There's an OVA featuring Itachi on an apron. They don't have to imagine it. They just have to look that up.
Oh god, there's probably some sort of free ex-Naruto crossover.
No, this is official art. Official art. Not a doujinshi or anything. Official art.
Ew, get that away from me.
Hashtag Rule 34. Rule 34.
I shall link it to you too, so you can be horrorized. So that wraps up this episode of Get a Life Podcast Kunai. Next episode, Kevin, what's next?
All right. I hope you guys. I hope there are fans of Gainax in the audience because the next
Gainax
anime is
Yes.
EVA. No, just kidding. It is PSG,
Wow,
also known as.
Kevin, screw you too.
I just cock blocked all the EVA fans out there. Sorry, no, it's not EVA. It is PSG, also known as panty and stocking with a garter belt. But no one gives a shit about garter belt, so.
AKA one of the best dubs ever made.
Yeah, it is literally, if you guys didn't know about it, it is what happens when you take Powerpuff Girls meets basically, I don't know, what's...
Angels,
It's
ghosts,
Powerpuff Girls for adults, basically.
and porn.
Wow.
It is awesome, so if you watch it...
No, real talk, it is God tier.
It is God tier. If you watch it, please watch it in the English dub or else you're doing it wrong, okay? And it's surprising, we do...
Yeah, the Japanese dub is very standard.
We don't often suggest watching anime in English dubs, because most of the time we go with the Japanese dub, but for this, it is a must-do. But anyways, what are your thoughts on this episode? You know, what you like, what didn't you like? You know, share your thoughts with us. Send Tyson your fanfics. All this can be done through Twitter or email. So,
Yeah,
Tyson.
send us your love, send us your hate, send us your death threats. We'll be there.
You can contact Joe at ZUKA underscore FTW underscore.
What the hell?
What?
What the hell?
You can be found under at Zuka for the win, alright? Tyson, what's your handle?
No, my handle is Sugumi SFTSUGUMIFTW. Sugumi for the win.
Oh my god. Yeah, Tyson, this is why you'll never have the best taste in this podcast.
You know what, guys? If we keep on
Hey, nigga, screw you! Screw
if
you!
we keep on misadvertising our Twitter handles, like, no wonder we don't get any messages, you know? Like, this is why we're always forever alone.
Okay, guys, real talk. Okay, so my handle is at KiboGamer, spelled KIBOUGAMER.
My handle is at the Tempest Phoenix, so it's TheTempestFenix. So it's not spelled the regular way. Tyson?
All in capitals, by the way. And my...
No. Only the first letter of each word.
Ignore him.
Not all
If you
caps.
just do everything capital. And my Twitter handle is at KANAYE_. So that's KNA_. Also, if you guys don't got Twitter, but you still want to get in contact with us, you can send us an email at galp.pea@gmail.com. Those emails will go to Bishop's secretary and it'll reach us eventually.
Yeah, like real talk. Like, let us know what you think. Like, we love hearing from everybody.
Of course. Also, I forgot the Twitter handle for the podcast. GALP.
It's at GALP Kunai.
Kunai. So that wraps up this episode of Get a Life Podcast Kunai. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
See you guys.
Stay sexy, boys and girls.
Whoa. Joe, you okay?
Sorry about that. There was noise in the background.
There's an earthquake.
There's an earthquake and we lost Joe. Joe.
Went from 4-man episode to 3-man episode to 2-man episode. We're gonna continue for Joe and Bish.
we had to hold in uology for these two.
Joe, we're gonna be using your webcam.
Huh?
Are you gonna be using your webcam because we need to do the signals? Remember that.
Well, I told you before, I am using a webcam. I'm Phoenix Wright IRL.
Phoenix Wright IRL. All right. Hey, who? What is it with the mechanical keyboard? Kabang! Stop showing that you're a PC Master Race.
That's not me. I'm not touching my keyboard right now. Hands up! Don't shoot. All right? Don't shoot.
Oh my gosh. You can contact that email. Anyway, I forgot to forgot to silence my devices. So let me do that right now before we continue. Fucking email. I'm actually getting good at saying these Japanese names. Wee.
You're slowly turning Japanese.
I think I'm turning Japanese. I really think so.
Tyson's turning more kawaii by the minute.
So the prospect of stop making me laugh.
Sorry, just because this guy is showing me his Naruto figure through the camera, I just give it to him.
Anyway,
I just feel so bad.